Another podcast from the And Terry Show in light of the empty chair that used to be occupied by my good friend Jim, who we have not been able to get together for a few podcasts. But we sally on. Onward we go. On the agenda today is the notion that perhaps, and I try to pause and be thoughtful about these things, but the idea is the observation that I'm going to use the word radical Islam. Is there a moderate Islam? I'm not sure. I am not a Quranic scholar, and I only know about these things from the periphery, but from the little exposure that I have had in my years of awareness of trying to relate and understand these things while not knowing Arabic and not reading the Arabic translation of the Quran, I just wonder if what we are seeing today in Canada, the United States, the pro-Palestinian rallies, the Gaza Intifada, the violence that's going on, is all rooted in hate. And I just wonder about that. And I wonder about hate being wrapped up in the guise of moderation and moderate. And I'm wondering whether there is such a moderate position when, as far as I understand it, the teachings are something like this: you either believe what we believe or you're going to hell, which would be fair for a lot of fundamental Christians to agree with as well. And what we used to see during the messianic endeavors of the Christian church, 200 years ago, 100 years ago, was all the Dr. Livingston, I presume, where the gospel went out with science and technology, where the West was trying to bring civilization. It may have been British civilization, and it may have been, to use Rudyard Kipling's words, the white man's burden. You can look up that poem by Rudyard Kipling. Misguided as it was, colonial perhaps in its emphasis, did bring about healthcare, did bring about hospitals, did bring about infrastructure, roads, highways, bridges, water and sewage, did bring many of the things that we take for granted. And then you have the case of Hamas digging up the recent infrastructure, knowing that the Israelis put in good quality pipes that could be excavated and used for pipe bombs, missiles launched back. How ironic is that? The infrastructure Israel puts in place, they are receiving, loaded with explosives, terrorism by civilization. Interesting stuff to ponder. But I'm wondering whether there is a messianic, that's not messianic, it's mission-oriented zeal in Islam that is following the coattails of expansion? Is expansion the right word? How about migration? Is that the right word? And we see the rallies in London especially were quite violent, and I'm wondering whether democracies of the West are falling victims to the very freedom that they have offered. And I'm questioning when freedom is extended and terrorists take advantage of it, when freedom is extended and authoritarians take advantage of it, when free speech is extended and hate is promoted, when liberty, the right to assemble, is extended and it becomes a hate mob. Has democracy created the very problem that it is receiving at this point in these pro-Palestinian, which I would be hard-pressed to see that they are pro-Palestinian. They are anti-Israel, for sure. And whether they are actually pro-Palestinian, pro-two-state, pro-democratic state solution. Notice that the emphasis is on democracy, and I do not find examples of democracy in an Islamic state. And correct me if I'm wrong, and in fact write in to the Jim and Terry Show and point me in some direction. I'm also wondering whether comments left on websites are a form of intimidation and bullying, in the form of, I'm right, I know I'm right, you don't know anything, and I know more than you, and therefore my way is the right way, and you are an infidel. And I'm wondering at the increase of that, just like I would wonder about the increase of right-wing authoritarian pro-Nazi hate speech on Twitter with this phenomena as well in the rallies. And I'm looking at the kinds of rallies, peaceful protest versus intifada revolution. Intifada is the solution. And I'm not sure what is going on. Again, this is part of what I would have said. Everything since, even maybe since the 1980s, has begun to be a topsy-turvy. It's a shifting of the poles of the earth, and maybe the magnetic poles are switching in opposite directions. What used to be positive is now becoming negative. Is that possible? Have the poles actually switched and I'm not aware of it? Where once things I thought were right and true and good and honorable, of good repute, are now becoming dishonorable? Worth thinking about. And, of course, you could go into cause and effect and say, yeah, we're the victims of our own circumstances. Democracies have created the very test tube in which the not democratic tendencies can fill the void and grow. And I'm just wondering, where are the voices of the moderates? Where are the voices calling out for, and again, I point this out, that there are intellectual academic groups in the United States and Canada on campuses around both countries and in Europe, which have called the October 7th raping and mutilation of women and children non-existent and fake news. And I'm just not sure I can get my head around in what universe this is a true statement. And for an academic, for doctors, for nurses, for engineers, lawyers, for academics, for professionals who seem to be suggesting these anti-Semitic things and gross things on their social media accounts. Did you not think that, these words, choose your words wisely? I think there is room for discussion, but perhaps not for spreading hate. And remember, I suggested that hate and indoctrination are related to dogma and conviction that your way is the right way, and that, in this case, Allah is the one true God. It's not Yeshua. It is not Yahweh. It is Allah and Muhammad. As I would always say, the latest, greatest kid on the block always thinks he's the best, and Islam arriving and Muhammad in the 7th century, well, then you go back to how old is the Hebrew collection? 1,000 years before that, or greater. Yeah, when we start to say that we've got it, we know it, and we're right and us alone, and there is no... Well, is there room for discussion when it comes down to spiritual truths? Or is there just, well, I believe this. Okay, that's fair enough. You're welcome to believe it. I believe I should dress this way. I believe I should have my head covering. I believe women should be not allowed in the gathering. I believe that women should be treated this way. And I'm looking at it and saying, is that right? And I'm looking at people who say Sharia law is a good thing. And I'm saying, in what way? And people say, oh, this... we pray at least 5 times a day, maybe 50 times a day if you're a real Muslim. And I'm saying, for all that praying, what have you got? And that takes me back to my own criticisms of my own faith journey. For all that praying, what good has been accomplished? For all the hours in service. Service to what? The mosque, the church, the temple? Service. I'm not sure about that stuff. Yeah, giving alms is good. Helping your neighbor is good. Helping orphans and widows, the fatherless, that's good stuff. But commanding people that they need to pray in this language, that they need to recite in this way, that you need to dress this way, you need to prostrate yourself. I'm thinking, I'm projecting my own worries of age and stage. Prostrate yourself on a mat facing what direction? Why that direction? And when did that happen? And why? Why? Questions. And as the book I like to quote from, The Importance of Questioning Everything. When your faith tradition says it's important not to question because you're afraid of the answers, when stuff is made up, when stuff is not true, when stuff does not make sense, and when stuff that you claim is good is actually evil, when you claim Jews are hiding behind rocks and trees and that they will speak out and cry out, there's a Jew behind me, go and kill them? What? Yeah, so where's the moderation and all that? And that goes for the Old Testament and all the God-killing people and ordering complete wipeouts of people. I'm not sure that it's anything but people doing the talking and people doing the crimes. Anyway, that's a story for another day, I suppose. Is there an Islamic uprising? Is it an intifada? And is it just in Gaza? Or is it everywhere? What's your observation? Things that you observe. Keep your eye on the news, pay attention, and come to your own conclusions. Isn't that the way we always say? Well, for me, this is true. It's not true for you. Is that okay? Or can we agree on what is a fact and what is an opinion and what is the difference between fact and opinion? And the bottom line, does it matter? Well, it does matter if it's hate. It does matter if you're hoping for a golden age of human expression and improvement. It does matter if hate is guised in the garb of good. It does matter if words of kindness are mistaken and get wrapped up and subverted into words that oppress other people. Yeah, it's tough. You got to sort it out. It's a challenge. I like challenges. Do you? I'm not sure that most people do. In fact, I'm not sure that most people even care about elections. Speaking of elections, what about the polls? Polls in Canada, polls in the United States. What do polls show? Who is polled and who gives their answers to a poll? Stay tuned. The Jim and Terry Show. Taking a poll. Who's listening? Hello? Anybody home? Take care. Bye-bye for now.